Carrie Ann Lumby, and I am the Program Manager for the K-12 National Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. I have been involved in mental health and education role my entire career, from being a school counselor and a school principal at a tribal controlled school. Today is part 3 of 3 with Melissa Isaac. We will be sharing a link today, so participants can complete a short poll. I think it's only 6 quick questions. This poll is very important, especially if your school is in need of personal consultation with our expert speaker, Melissa Isaac. She is now going to be contracting with us to offer consultation services for individual schools in helping them develop a school reopening plan, which could include needing more in-depth instructions, suggestions, and guidance specific to your school's needs as we return to learn in a safe learning environment. This service will be offered through our center and without a fee. So if you are interested in that, please make sure to fill out that form. And I believe Noah's going to go ahead and put that up. You could also contact me. My email address is Teresa, Teresa, Brewington, BREWINGTON at uiowa.edu. You could also contact me at 641-854-1178. So again, if your individual school is looking for developing a reopening plan or just needing more guidance as things go along, please contact us because we are here to help. Today we will be saving the conversation from the chat, compiling resources shared and other helpful information. So please be aware that when writing, we will remove sensitive information. However, we are recording today's event. You can access this webinar and the last 2 series by going to our website or visiting our YouTube channel at Native Center for Behavioral Health. Please note that this is a safe place for sharing your concerns and experiences. We want this to be a space of open discussion to share amongst peers or to discuss any topics that may be of relevance to you. We have a very diverse group, so please be respectful and mindful of each other's opinions and experiences. Please use the chat box or raise your hand. Myself and my coworker Noah will ask you questions as we go along, as well as spending the last few minutes of today's sessions for question and answers. I just have a few more announcements, a little unrelated to this webinar. We will be continuing to provide these weekly sessions with other guest speakers as needed to support and guide our Native students, parents, and school personnel as we reopen amidst COVID. Our goal is to provide you with supportive services during this time. Next week, our guest speaker is George Baston. He is an expert in his field. This session is titled Native Youth Telehealth Initiative. Our center is offering at no charge intense technical assistance for 3 months, telehealth platforms, and other equipment as needed. As you're all aware, mental health needs have increased in numbers for our youth in anxiety, depression, and drug and alcohol abuse amongst school-age children during the time of COVID-19. Telehealth in schools is a need for several reasons. For example, connecting mental health professionals and other supportive services to children that are enrolled in online learning, or even connecting mental health professionals to children during school without interrupting or having to leave the building. Also, we want to offer a school principal forum starting this month in September. So if any of you are school principals or know school principals, please reach out to me as soon as possible. We will be using this time to share ideas, concerns, and collaborate with each other during the COVID epidemic. For today's sessions, we are again fortunate to have Melissa Isaac as our presenter. Melissa has done absolutely remarkable job in her district and for us. She has done great presentations, and I'm sure her presentation here today will be just as wonderful. Today, I think Melissa is going to start with questions and answers from anything you've had from our past 2 sessions, and then she's going to talk about Project Aware. So now I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Melissa so that she can introduce herself and start today's presentation.
Miigwech, Teresa. So I introduced myself at the beginning of my prayer in my language, which is the first thing that we always do. As Teresa said, my name is Melissa Isaac. I'm the Education Director for the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe in Michigan. We have a K-5 tribal school that is really a sovereign school. We're not overseen by the BIE. We don't receive state funding. It's completely tribally paid for, operated, owned. We have control of our curriculum and everything like that. And so I've been speaking mainly about that. We've had 2 other sessions, and so I just want to see if any of the people that were on those sessions, because we've covered so much information, if you have any questions lingering from either of those.
We're going to give people a few minutes. They may just want to type it up in the chat.
So while that's happening, I will also say, and this is, I always start out this way and I didn't this time. I'm a mother. That's the first thing. I have 4 children, 2 are school aged. I have one who's 18 this year, and then one who is on the verge of going to school really soon. And so I come to you today from a parental perspective, an administrator perspective, and I have an expired elementary teaching certificate. And so I got my beginning of my career in education as a teacher in the state of Michigan. And so I have a very unique perspective in being able to share all of those experiences with you today.
Thank you for that, Melissa. I do want to ask, I'm not seeing any questions yet, but last week was really important. She talked a lot about IEP and how to work with IEP students and 504 students during this time. So if you have questions regarding that, please raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll go ahead and answer, ask her the questions. Somebody did send me an email the other day wanting you to go into a little bit of a more explanation on the powwow center. I can't remember the exact words that you used that you guys are doing outside.
Oh, our outdoor learning areas, yes. So one of the recommendations for virus mitigation is to be outside. And so what we decided to do is, in the back of our school, we have a longhouse, and the whole school can fit in there. But obviously it doesn't make sense to have the whole school together in an enclosed area if that's kind of like not the point. And so what we decided to do was, my original vision was to build little longhouses for each class because we're cohorted. So only their class would be allowed in their little learning lodge. But as we started putting that together, we realized that the materials are really hard to gather for those. And so what they look like now are mini powwow arbors. And so they get 1 per class, and they're really neat looking. They're around our school grounds, and each class has one. And then we also have Wi-Fi being installed back there so they can take their Chromebooks out as well.
Thank you, Melissa. Somebody also asked me another question the other day I wanted to ask. I know that you made it optional for your students to wear masks. Was that for all grade levels?
Yes, that's all grade levels K-5.
And if the COVID changes, if the numbers change, will that be re-looked at? Is that one of the things that you guys have considered taking another look at?
So it's interesting because the way that our virus mitigation strategy is formatted is right now we're in a certain phase. We're in phase 4.
Hmm.
And anything below phase 4, 1 through 3, requires remote learning only. And so if anything were to get worse, we would simply go online. If things get better, then we bring those two cohorts together and masks would continue to be optional.
Okay.
Except for the staff. The staff have to wear them all the time.
Yes. And has your school started?
Yes, we started this week.
Okay. And I have to know, how's it going so far?
I'm gonna cross my fingers, knock on wood. It has been so smooth, and I don't want to. We did a lot of planning, so I'm very thankful for that. It's been great. Kids are happy; they get that little socialization time. Parents are happy because our biggest class has 7 kids in it. They have the outdoor. It's just so flexible. We actually have 23, 10, 20, no, 32. Sorry, I got that backwards. 32 additional students this year, which for our small K-5 tribal school is like a third. So we've had an increase in that many students because people really enjoyed that option for their students. So yeah, that's good. That's good news. We just need more technology now because we have 32 more students.
Has any issues come up since reopening?
It has not.
Wow.
We've it's pretty good so far. But I made a statement in the last couple of presentations that when we planned for when the virus is going to come and visit us. We didn't plan for let's keep it away. We're like, okay, here's our plan. When it happens, what are we going to do? So in a proactive way, we planned ahead so that we're not reactive, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Being proactive is always best.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying to read this as well and ask you questions at the same time. Um, give me just 2 seconds to get my thought back there, Melissa. Okay. It'll come to me.
Okay.
So maybe at the end, when we go through questions again, maybe I'll ask that question again. Um, actually, something else. Have you noticed that children are behavior-wise
The students,
different?
yeah, I mean, it could be honeymoon phase right now. I mean, that's the reality of, they haven't seen their friends since March. Um, the behavior has been pretty good. I thought we were going to have to start from scratch with here's a mask, here's how you wear it appropriately when you're in common areas. We had masks on hand in case anybody forgot theirs. We haven't had to use those. The kids came in with their masks, they knew exactly how to wear them and what to do. And so we credit the families and the parents for really prepping them in that way, so that they already knew that. And we haven't had to do a whole lot of education as far as them not wearing them or wearing them inappropriately.
That was actually my next question. Did your school offer any type of training to parents and students, and of course teachers, on COVID precautions when they returned?
Yes, we did definitely. During the last couple of weeks were professional development weeks, and we went over strategies and ways. Well, first of all, here's how you wear a mask. Here's how you don't wear a mask. Here's how you can approach, or here's how you can gently remind students and correct them in a gentle way. So we did all of that, and then with the families, we put out on social media just little snapshots, not to overwhelm them, but just little snapshots of our secretary. Everybody loves and knows the secretary. Here's how she wears her mask properly. Here's how she wears it, inappropriately. And so yeah, it was just little snapshots of information. And I think with everything else that they are seeing on social media and from our health departments and things, it hasn't been that was one thing I was surprised about. I expected that to be more of an issue, but it has not.
Um, Next question. What percentage of students would you say are actually wearing the mask?
From what I can see in the first few days, they've all had them on. Even when they're coming out of the building to greet their parents, some of them get picked up. and they come out and they have their masks on. I mean, just the
So maybe
littlest.
they just appreciated being able
Yeah,
to be involved in that
I,
decision.
I, I think so. Yeah, they were. Yeah, I mean, I'm even surprised by it because I thought, all right, here we go. Let's, pony up and let's do it. And they were fine.
That's great. And how are you continuing as we go forward when things arise? What is your avenue of continuing to speak with parents and notify parents of what's going on?
So we have a website that's new and it's launched. We also have Facebook social media groups that are parent led. And I pop in there and put things on there. I We are all available for questions all the time, and I think it really helps that I was not born here in the community, but basically raised here my whole life, and so people are very comfortable asking me things, even if their students go to public school and not the tribal school, because after fifth grade they kind of age out.
Yes,
So they definitely aren't afraid to contact me and ask me questions because they know if I don't know, then I'll find out for them the answer to their question.
sure. Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions that I had.
All right. Well, let's get into it then. If any other questions pop up, Teresa and Noah are both going to let me know, and I will address those as we go. I wanted to talk today about social emotional learning because the social emotional health of our students right now, it's always been an issue, and that's one of the I think one of the positive things about the virus COVID-19 is that a lot of the disparities that were easy to sweep under the rug before can no longer be swept under the rug. So the digital divide, now we're seeing where those inequities are, and we can't run from it anymore. With social emotional health, mental health, it's easy to kind of put those things on the back burner, but now everybody's experiencing this traumatic global event. And so now people are talking about it and they're being active about it. And so to me, those are really positive things. Project Aware is, you can, oh, sorry, Noah, you can go ahead and switch the slide. Project Aware is support for mental health. And the way that that came about, and I just use popular names in our community, from a student named Mashike, our student Nij, and a classroom of friends that we had at the tribal school that I was overseeing. We always knew that behavior was an issue, but it was really difficult to explain to non-educators or non-mental health people that behavior is communication, that there was a message behind it. And so my first year of teaching, brand new, went into the classroom. My first year of teaching, Mashike was a second grade. His father, and I'm going to apologize right now, or not apologize, but make you aware that some of this language I'm going to tell you is very triggering. And so just to be prepared for that, because we talk about a lot of traumatic events in the lives of the students that I oversaw and how that impacted our school, as well as the video that we're going to show. So I just wanted to put that out there. So Mashike's dad, when Mashike was in second grade and in my class, committed suicide in the home in front of them. And we had no training. It was kind of, he was gone one day and he was coming back after spring break. And like, what do you do? How do you handle that? What do you say? What's he gonna be like? What if the kids ask him about it? What if he starts talking about it? And all of these things that, looking back now, there wasn't any support for that. That same year, Nija's mother was sick with cancer. And her favorite holiday was Christmas, and they were just hoping that she would make it to Christmas, and then that didn't happen. And so what was he going to be like, and what were the kids going to ask, and those same questions that came up with our other friend. And teachers do the best they can when those things happen. So you couple that with historical trauma and the things that Native people face, what can we do? There's a situation here, and how do you communicate that? Fast forward to when I had an interim principal position at our current school, and we had a small group of 11 students, and in one school year, 5 of their fathers lost their lives. That's half. What do we do? There's an issue here. And when I first tried to bring light to this issue, it was, oh yeah, okay, yep, you guys need some counselors, and let's see if you can work your budget that way. And, unless you're in the thick of it, people don't really understand. And so we did everything that we could. And so I said, well, can we do a trauma study? Does that exist? What is that? And it was like, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to label our kids. Well, that was between these 2 incidents. And so when the classroom of friends happened, I said, you know what? I don't care. We're going to do it. And so with the help of behavioral health, we did a trauma study. And the video clip right here will explain exactly what I was trying to articulate, but being a teacher could not articulate it because that wasn't necessarily my background. And so we'll go ahead and give that a listen, and then we'll go through.
One morning I woke up and I heard my brother crying. He was screaming so loud you thought someone was dying. Mom, Dad, he screamed, but there was no use trying. They weren't around. I ran outside and saw he'd had a pretty bad crash. His bike was in the ditch, down his arm a bloody gash. He looked so pitiful just sitting there in the dirt amongst the trash crying, I want Mom and Dad. I picked him up and started running toward my uncle's up the way. It started raining and got real dark. You could barely tell it was day. My brother cried and asked, Sister, where's Mom? I didn't know what to say, when the truth is, I don't know. When my uncle saw us coming, he ran into the yard. He took my brother from me and he held him in his arms. When he saw my face, I could tell he was alarmed. And he said, what happened? Did you fall too? Uncle, I'm so tired of wondering why. Why do they drink? Why do they do drugs? Why do they leave us? Why? He said, Sister, it's hard to explain. And I said, Uncle, try. And then he told this story.
Once this land was teepees as far as you can see. The water was clean, the land pristine. We were where we were meant to be. Then strangers came across the sea and brought with them their disease. Our people cried and prayed and sang, but it brought them to their knees. Imagine that your family, and most of all your tribe, what if most of everyone you love suddenly got sick and died? And before you even had a chance to bury them and mourn, the strangers came and took away the land where you were born. And you wondered if your parents even cared as they stole you and your brother away, or if they'd been so beaten down they had nothing left to say. And then at school, they cut your hair and beat you if you spoke. The language that Creator gave our people when earth awoke.
We will rise up from the darkness. We will overcome the pain.
tell you that your mom and dad are okay, or that they're not responsible for the choices that they've made. But you see this bloody wound on your little brother's arm. If we don't clean it, it won't heal, and it'll do all kinds of harm. Those deep wounds of our ancestors still bleed within our hearts. When we remember all they've done, that's where the healing starts. So every morning when you wake, you pray this prayer out loud. Creator, help me live in a way that would make my ancestors proud.
We will rise up from the darkness.
Don't you forget this. You can be anything you want to be.
We will overcome the pain.
Just work hard, never give up. Perseverance is the key.
For your spirits live within
Strength, dignity, honor, that's all in your family tree. So hold your head up high and know that.
We shall remain. We will rise up from the darkness.
Creator, help me live in a way that will make my ancestors proud.
We will overcome the pain.
Creator, help me live in a way that will make my ancestors proud.
For your spirits live within us.
Creator, help me live in a way that will make my ancestors proud.
We shall remain.
Little brother, we will rise up from this darkness. Little brother, we will overcome the pain. Remember, warrior spirits live within us. We shall remain.
All right. So, powerful. I could not before get through that without like just bawling my face off, because it's so close to the surface for a lot of us. And when I showed that video, then people understood. Oh my gosh, you guys, you need help. You're in crisis. This is exactly, the behaviors that we're seeing that people can't quite understand when our students are doing that. And so this was not made by us or for us. I just happened to come across it one day on YouTube, and I was like, that's it right there. So that's why we do the work that we do. And so we'll continue on. We are in year 2 of Project Aware, and it's to address this specific issue. And so if we go to the next slide, we did the trauma study, and we know adverse childhood experiences increase the likelihood of death. And if you look at the bottom of this pyramid, the generational historical trauma is at the foundation for tribal nations. And then you go on up the scale, and that's what happens. Drinking, all of those side effects that you see from all of those experiences. Go to the next one. Yep, keep going. So the result of our trauma study was that 73% of our students had experienced at least one type of trauma. It's a lot. The traumas that we looked at were kind of broken down. So, for example, we knew that a lot of our families were not together. And so why was that? I told you one example was death. Another one is being removed from the home into foster care. Different things like that. Bullying, being a bully, or being on the receiving end of being a bully. And so we went through there, and we know our students enough that we went through and checked off everything that we knew with the help of our behavioral health, tribal behavioral health program. 31% of our students had experienced at least 4 of those. And 7+, almost a third of our students experienced the whole gamut of those things. And these are just known traumas. And so we knew that the data also spoke to, we had to do something about it. Go ahead and go to the next one. So we applied with this data, grant after grant, and got the door shut in our face so many times by the Kellogg Foundation, by these different areas, because they didn't know what it meant to try to be trauma informed. That's what we wanted. Our goal was to be a trauma informed, resilient school, to not just focus on the trauma, but focus on the resiliency that's going to bring those citizens out of that trauma. So what do we know about our students? That all of them, 10 out of 10, are survivors of historical trauma. If you're Native, you're a survivor of historical trauma. And from our results that we did here, 7 out of 10 were students with one known trauma. And who knows, it could be higher. Those were just the ones we knew about. Next slide. What is trauma? What impact does that have on learning? A lot. Like I said, it's a style of communication. Kids can't learn when they're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, and that can lead to aggression, defiance, withdrawal, even perfectionism. And so that impacts their academics. Next slide. So we applied finally to SAMHSA, and everything happens for a reason. All those smaller grants where I said they shut the door in our face and didn't really want anything to do with what we were proposing, we got the big one. 5 years, $9 million, funded by SAMHSA for substance abuse and mental health awareness. This was done in collaboration with our 2 surrounding public schools, where once they leave us, the majority of our students are in those 2 surrounding districts. So we wanted to be able to help all students, not just the students that we have in our tribal school. Like I said, it increases mental health awareness and access. It fosters collaborations between agencies to better serve the youth, and it is data driven. So a lot of the things we weren't keeping data on, we are now keeping data on so that we can figure out what the problem is. You can't fix it if you don't know specifically what the issues are. Next slide. So every year for Project Aware, our tribal school has 2 full-time counselors. Our surrounding district, Shepherd Public Schools, which is a smaller district, has 3 on top of the counselors they already had. And our bigger district, Mount Pleasant, has 5 additional counselors on top of the ones that they already had. Written into the grant was Igala therapy at a ranch. And so there's horse therapy. The kids get to work with horses and counselors out there. That top left picture is what's called a calming corner. Ours is indigenized. So it looks like a little lodge, and they can go in there and regulate. And we teach them how to do that, how to read their body signals to know that, hey, I just need to kind of take a time out. Let's see, counselor and educational supplies. So every year, every teacher in the district, and there's 600 plus teachers, get a budget for school supplies to take the trauma or to take the stress off of the educators from having to buy their own school supplies every year. We know that's an issue. Teachers are always buying all the crayons and everything to help their students. Well, this takes care of that for them. We are all receiving trauma-informed schools training. There are 4 community events in each of our communities to bring awareness to mental health. And then we're all together developing a strategic action plan so that no matter where our kids go in our area, they're going to get the same services and have the same expectations between the school districts. So for year 1, we went through 2 policy changes. So policy has to change if things are going to change. And so we did that. That was our goal for the year. Our next one was the number of people who were trained in mental health related things, and our annual goal was 857, and we trained 858. The number of organizations that we entered in agreements with, so it's really difficult to collaborate with people if you don't have an agreement with them. And so we did memorandums of understanding. Our goal was 3. We entered into 11 between the 3 districts. And then the number of individuals who have received training, because the teachers are just as important as the cooks, who are just as important as the janitors and the bus drivers. So everybody across those districts are getting trained. And so our goal is 857. We ended up training 2,985 individuals who work for the school district. And that picture right there is historical. It's the first time the tribal nation and the surrounding districts have ever come together for anything.
Wow.
That's a lot of progress.
Melissa, if I could interrupt real quick, are your counselors, are they school-based counselors, mental health therapists, or guidance counselors?
Ours are, they're not therapists, they're not guidance, they're the school-based counselors.
School-based. Okay.
Yep. Some of the districts already had the mental health therapists on board, and this was an addition to that. And then, of course, they do have guidance counselors in the surrounding schools. We had none. We had our behavioral health center that's down the road. While helpful, it's always what we're seeing is best to have somebody in-house. And so now we have 2 full-time people who do that. All right, next slide. So some unique challenges going into this year, transitioning training and events to online format. That's what we've had to do, even our community events. Transitioning our counseling services to online, and then we also have phones where people can call them if they need assistance. There was a lot of uncertainty about back to school plans because all the districts were kind of doing their own thing and they were a little bit different. The extra workload of meeting these grant goals on top of remote learning and in-person learning, and basically increased stress and anxiety for everybody across the board. And then our planning model is community and group based, and right now we can't meet in groups. And so that one we're still trying to figure out. Next slide. And so we go through, they're called STAR, STARR, and they're the ones who are training us in becoming a trauma-informed resilient school. And so you can see per the tribe, Mount Pleasant Public Schools, Shepherd Public Schools, the number of people who are trained in each of those areas. Go to the next slide. This is a summary of some of the things that our people are getting trained in. This is through Mount Pleasant Public Schools, the bigger district that I was telling you about. 7 of their counselors have been trained in suicide risk assessment. 12 of their staff have been trained in CPI, which is a crisis prevention training. 70 parapros were trained in the QPR suicide prevention. 200 staff were trained in restorative practices. And then the number of trauma-informed services provided to students, because like I said, we started keeping track of things that we've never kept track of. 6,388 are the number of, from these trainings, ways we've been able to help with students, such as mindfulness in class lessons, getting them in touch with a social worker, group and individual counseling. And then the events that were hosted, the youth mental health first aid, 41 elementary paraprofessionals were trained and 9 community members were trained. And then they're participating in an intentional book club for educators, which is new and really good. It's focused on social justice and race. So that's also very good. And this is the breakdown for Shepherd Public Schools, which is the smaller district. And of course, they're going to have smaller numbers, but that's just a breakdown there. And this PowerPoint will be available. You guys can read through that. But it just shows the number of training and services that were provided to students.
That 6,000 figure, is that 1 year?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. I'm so curious to know, what was it before? Because they weren't.
Yeah, really.
It might have been 0. Maybe it was. Maybe they were doing more than they thought. But we know that this is how many we're doing now. And this is the summary for the tribal school, smaller number. 86 students, and so the numbers are, right there, 86. They've all been, they have all received trauma-informed instruction of some sort. So that's 100%. Looks little because it's 86, but you can see the things that the staff here, including indigenous restorative practices, which is an indigenized behavior model that frowns on things like suspension and kicking your kids out of school, because traditionally we did not exile children or banish them from our tribes. And so it follows that model, which we're just in the middle of learning right now. So we don't have a whole lot of information on that, but that's the direction we're going. We did a consensus workshop with the staff here. Every district did, but I just wanted to share ours very briefly. The question was, what do we need to become a more trauma-informed, resilient school? And I was very happy with the outcome of that. Half of our school are non-native professionals, and the other half are indigenous professionals. So it's always interesting when the group comes together to kind of see how that's going to shake out. And so this was collaborative. It was done in partnership, and this is what they said. These are our goals. This is what we need to do. So we need to demonstrate empathy in student interactions. And that came directly from them. And that's different than me as the administrator saying, you guys need to be more empathetic in student interactions. They're telling me we need to be more empathetic in student interactions. So we need your help. We need some resources. And so I'm very happy to do that. Next slide. We've also done a lot of resource development, and this is my Project Aware team is just, I couldn't have asked for a better team. They're the ones who are coming up with these snapshot sheets that are going out, not just to the school, but if you look on the bottom right there, for our organizational employees, here's some mental health support with everything that we have going on. And so while we focus on the school, it is community-wide in our tribal community here. And so they do a lot of researching to put these together and put them in a way that families will understand. And part of our grant included the use of social emotional learning dogs. We got approved for it initially, and then as our meetings went on and we named our dogs Nojimo, which means a safe, like a safe place in our language, and Joy, they SAMHSA kind of were like, whoops, we weren't supposed to do that. And we're like, but they have names already. What are we gonna do? And so our tribe graciously funded the dogs because they knew how important they were. And so the whole district, they have each district has a pack of social emotional learning dogs. It's just really cute to see their Facebook pages and things when they're interacting with students. So ours will be coming for a visit next week, and we're really excited. Next slide. All right, so our goal, this is what we said we wanted to do when we set out, is tiered. So tier 1 is what you're going to get when you come into the school. Every student, every staff member is going to get a proactive system of support. So trauma-informed staff and facility, indigenous restorative practices, so that we're focusing on repairing the harm and not exiling or banishing our students. A safe environment that's safe culturally, emotionally, policies and procedures that are reflective of trauma-sensitive approaches. So somebody asked about attendance in one of the prior, it's not a seminar, webinar that we did, and I forgot to address it, and so I'm addressing it now. We modified our attendance policy to be reflective of those days where maybe something's happening and they need a mental health day. So if they tell us that that's what they need, then that's what we give them, and we don't ask any questions. And it's really hard to let go of that control, because like, are they taking advantage of it? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? But we always assume good intent. And so we're seeing how that has worked out. But then again, you know, COVID happened and we haven't really been able to weigh it one way or the other. But that is the direction that we're going in. We'll have well-trained staff members, from the director, which is me, to our janitors. A physical environment that's conducive to learning using a sensory approach. So flexible seating, the outdoor classrooms that we talked about. We're going to use cultural-based strategies for student, staff, and parent well-being. So we have smudge bowls going all the time. We have our culture and language staff who will sing with the kids and let the kids, you know, the babies sing along with them if they need it. It's really soothing for them. Students will have personal wellness goals, and our staff eventually, once we get trained on what that means, will have their own personal and professional wellness goals as well. And then we'll have school-wide support and interventions like the positive behavior incentives. We'll have the development of a wellness curriculum, culture and language curriculum, and all of those things that really are going to help the whole child. And then wellness support, not just for our students, but for our staff as well. Tier 2 is reactionary. So we do all these things and somehow we're still having some issues. So now what do we do? We're going to have a supportive team meeting that includes the student, family, staff, administrator, and a traditional healer and a youth counselor. You need to have both of those in a tribal school to be able to support our students. Cultural and skill building interventions. So if the family wants to do a little talking circle and go that route, they can. We're learning about those. We also host a round dance here, and that helps with grief. So we host very cultural things. And then we reevaluate, how could we have avoided this? And then tier 3 is intensive, meaning one of the babies lost one of their family members or something happened, and now we need to come in and really provide all the wraparound services we can for this hurting little person. And then again, we always reevaluate our policies and procedures to see if we could have done something different. Usually in the tier 3 one, it's out of our control, but it's always good to reevaluate to make sure that we're not just sticking to this because it's already written, and that's what we do. All right. Was that it? Yes. We got through it. I was worried. Lots of information again, but just to speak on what we're doing for social emotional support for our students. That's what the direction we're heading, and that's the dream. That last slide you saw is the vision for it. Any questions?
Don't be afraid to speak up, guys. If you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask. Now's the time.
Yep, and I always say too, what we're doing is not just like, wow, we have no issues and it's so smooth. We've had our bumps and have continued the course, and that's the direction we're going in. So I don't want anybody to think it's been perfect, because it hasn't.
Hi, my name's Shauna Evans. I'm from South Dakota, and I'm the community project manager for Project Aware. This is my first year. I was wondering, what year are you guys on then with your Project Aware grant?
We are on year 2.
Okay. Wow, you guys that's awesome.
I'm telling you, it's the staff. They are incredible. And I know that not everybody on here is Indigenous or Native, but those of you that are, or those of you that believe, lay your SEMA, use your tobacco, and ask for these things, because it's really the thing that's gonna make these things happen. It's gonna pave the way for these opportunities to open up.
Would anybody else like to ask a question?
Do you have the opportunity to have animal-assisted therapy? Yes, that's the EGALA therapy. That's equine therapy. That's the identified students are receiving that. They received it last year over the summer, and now we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it this year. That's in the works, I believe.
And yep, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much, Melissa. This is Shano. I work in Denver, Jeffco, outside of Denver, Jeffco Public Schools, Indian Education Program. And it's so, all of the work that you're doing and your staff are doing, it's just so amazing. And I really appreciate listening in on your sessions that you've been providing. And just want to say, I think that there's some of the things that we can actually use here in more of a school setting that's larger. And, we got several different tribes here, but I think some of the tools that you've used are going to be really helpful for our urban Native Indians. Yeah. So thank you.
Yes, use whatever you want, ask questions. I share Whatever you guys need from me, let me know. And I'm glad that there were things that you could use, Chenoa. So good luck in what you do. And if you need anything, let me know for sure.
Thank you.
And you take what you need. You know, you may not need your school's going to be different than her school. Every area is different. So you pull from what you need and what works for you. So, anybody else have questions?
There's one about how are the best practices shared with the other schools. So we meet monthly with the whole team, the Project Aware team that's in Mount Pleasant, Shepherd, and the tribe. We meet monthly, and that's when we do all of the sharing, and we're in constant contact, which is also pretty historical because we've always been very siloed. Again, that's not been perfect, but it's a start compared to where we were, years ago.
All right, I'm going to do a quick closing unless we have any other questions. Melissa Kadabi, you've just been beautiful, wonderful. I just can't thank you enough for this valuable, much needed, very necessary information that you are providing to the Native community. I hate that you're leaving us, but you're not leaving us because, as we mentioned, if you guys are wanting more individualized support, please give us a call. We will get you in contact with Melissa and get that arranged. I also have a feeling we will have her back for even more sessions because I think she's got a lot more experience and expertise to share. I do want everybody to know, again, these are still going to be held every Thursday at 2 o'clock. I think I already mentioned that we are doing a telehealth initiative next week. Please spread the word. We want to provide services to all Native American schools, to all Native American students, even if they're going into public schools. If you have any ideas or suggestions or anything like that, please share it. We want to hear it. We want to hear your needs. Send me a quick email or a quick phone call. Ask if it's something that we could do. If it's doable, we could do it. We're very flexible. We have a great team, and we truly understand the times that we're going through right now, and the need for our Native nations to work together on behalf of our community and our students. I appreciate everybody being here. I've seen a lot of new faces. I would love to have a session where we just all get to meet and greet. But thank you again for being here today. Melissa, thank you. So, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.